Hello everyone, and welcome. Today I'm going to be doing a basic guide on the Mesmer abilities, all land-based of course. I'm not overviewing the water abilities, simply because they're very similar to the land-based abilities, and in all reality most of the combat in this game is done on land because I personally find water fighting and water combat to be still very irritating. I don't know, I feel like just the whole idea of underwater combat is just an annoyance. I'd rather be above on the land and working with that. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, I hope you enjoyed the guide, and here we go. Okay, in order to begin this guide, we are going to start by looking at the greatsword skills. With the Mesmer, your two primary damaging options are going to want to be the staff and the greatsword, simply because they provide the most damage, less utility. They're primarily for PvE. Actually, the staff can be used really well in PvP, but and so can the greatsword. However, I prefer them for PvE situations. Anyways, starting with the first ability on the greatsword, we have the Spatial Surge. This shoots a beam at your foe, and the farther they are from you, the more damage you deal. The damage ratio, not the damage ratios, I'm sorry, the range at which this increased damage comes about is actually pretty far away. You have to be a significant distance away from where you previously were before you often see the increased damage, as you'll see in the clip. The second ability on the greatsword is called Mirror Blade. Now, this throws an illusionary greatsword that bounces between targets and damages foes and gives might to allies, which is a boon. And finally, it creates the clone at its first target, so that the target you targeted to hit with Mirror Blade will have a clone summoned at it once the Mirror Blade is done bouncing around. The third ability on the greatsword is called Mind Stab. Now, this has a relatively decent range, and when activated, it is a targeted ability, so you thrust your greatsword into the ground and damages foes, removing one boon from each individual target. So, yeah, this is just in general nice damage, and especially helps, you know, if your target has might or something, it just removes it. It's just overall a nice ability. The fourth ability on the greatsword is called Phantasmal Berserker. Now, this ability creates a phantasm that uses a whirlwind attack to damage and cripple foes. Now, Phantasm, unlike a clone, actually does a significant amount of damage, whereas the clone will do minimal damage and simply looks like you. Phantasms, however, will show the name Illusionary and then whatever they're called. For in this case, it'll be called an Illusionary Berserker. On a secondary note, the Phantasmal Berserker also cripples foes for a brief time. Finally, the last ability on the Mesmer Greatsword kit is called Illusionary Wave. This has a relatively long cooldown, and when activated, it pushes all foes in front of you back. So, basically using this ability allows you to, for example, double-click W so you roll back, and use Illusionary Wave to push your enemies back, giving you more distance to use your basic ability, Spatial Surge, to deal more damage than it would normally do at close range. Next up, we have the Staff, which is the only other two-handed weapon available to the Mesmer class. Your first ability on the Staff is called Winds of Chaos. This is a single target ability, and when activated, bounces an orb of energies between foes and applies random boons to allies and random conditions to foes. So you can only target one enemy, and then the bouncing is completely random. The second ability on the Staff kit is called Phase Retreat. This teleports you away from your target and summons a clone that casts your one ability. And yes, it actually applies random boons and random conditions to allies and foes, respectively. It pushes you back a decently away from your target, and the clone will only cast Winds of Chaos. However, it will not do the same amount of damage that your winds would do. It will simply apply the debuffs and buffs, respectively. The third ability in the Mesmer Staff Kit is called Phantasmal Warlock. This summons an illusion that deals extra damage for each unique condition on the target foe. Now this is again a phantasm, so it will do additional damage. However, it will state that it is indeed an illusion. And this works extremely well with Winds of Chaos, because Winds of Chaos applying those random debuffs, or along with Phase Retreat's clone, can allow you to deal additional damage from Phantasmal Warlock. And since the attacks from Phantasmal Warlock often have a very long separation between each attack, it allows you to get an additional Winds of Chaos off, applying more debuffs and allowing for your Phantasm to deal extra damage. The fourth ability in the Mesmer Staff Kit is called Chaos Armor, and this is primarily the utility, as it gives yourself Chaos Armor, which gives yourself random boons and your foes random conditions whenever you are struck. This ability has a relatively long cooldown, and I suggest using it when transitioning between different kits, such as a sword, as it will allow you to get up into your enemy's face while applying random conditions. The final ability in the Mesmer Staff Kit is called Chaos Storm. This has a relatively long cooldown, 30 seconds, and when activated creates a magical storm at the target location that applies random conditions to foes and random boons to allies. When active, any friendly allies shooting through this field, such as rangers, mesmers, elementalists, etc., any projectiles that passes through this field will apply confusion to the target enemy. The Mesmer's first main hand-only abilities come from the Scepter. Now, the Scepter's main ability is called Ether Bolt, which then changes into Ether Blast and Ether Clone. The first time you use this one, it will activate Ether Bolt, which shoots a bolt of energy at your target. The second time you activate it, it will activate Ether Blast, which will yet again shoot a bolt of energy. However, on the third activation of your one, it will shoot out a bolt of energy that confuses your target and summons a clone that does the same thing, and on each time the clone hits a third cast, it will indeed apply confusion. However, it will not summon a clone of its own. The second ability in the Mesmer's Scepter Kit is called Illusionary Counter. This blocks your next attack, and counters it by creating a clone that casts Ether Bolt. When activated a second time, it shoots out a bolt that blinds foes in a line. However, it can only be activated after blocking an attack. The final ability in the Scepter spell kit is called Confusing Images. This channels a beam of energy that damages and confuses your foe. Being on a relatively short cooldown, this becomes relatively spammable, along with your Ether Bolts. Although not spammable in its own right, combined with Ether Bolts, this allows you to do a large amount of damage. There's only one weapon that can be dual-wielded in the Mesmer class. This is the sword. On your main hand, the first sword ability is called Mind Slash, which then chains with Mind Gash and Mind Stab. On the first cast, it casts Mind Slash, slashing your foe and makes them vulnerable. The second cast, it casts Mind Gash, which gashes your foe and also makes them vulnerable, for a total of 2 vulnerability stacks after the second cast. However, on the third cast, you stab your foe and rip a boon off of them. This is just a relatively easily chainable basic ability. The second ability for the Mesmer Sword is called Blurred Frenzy. This ability allows you to strike your foe with a flurry of strikes, distorting the space around you, making you evade attacks. Now the evasion lasts for about 2 seconds or so, and during this time, you will be able to evade all attacks, and will be basically immune to damage except for dots already applied to you. The third ability and final ability for the main hand sword is called Illusionary Leap. This summons an illusion that leaps at your target and cripples them for a relatively short period. However, on the second cast, you can cast Swap. This swaps your location with your clone and immobilizes nearby foes, instantly transporting you to the clone's location, and vice versa for the clone. When the sword is equipped in the offhand, you have two abilities active for it. Your 4, or your fourth ability in that case, is called Illusionary Riposte. This blocks your foe and creates an illusion when attacked. This ability is channeled so you don't have to time it absolutely correctly, and it casts for about a good second. When you block a foe's attack, it will summon a clone, and when cast again, it will shoot out a bolt that dazes foes in a line. And that is known as Counterblade. The final ability on the sword offhand is called Phantasmal Swordsman, yes, sorry. This creates an illusion that attacks your foe. It has about a 15-second cooldown, so you can quickly bring up a number of these if you're attacking things in worldly worlds such as gates. Remember, this is indeed a phantasm. Therefore, it will be called an illusion when targeted by enemy players. There are a total of 3 different offhands items that can be held by a Mesmer. The first of which I will be looking at is called the Focus. The Focus is primarily a utility offhand, and will be used primarily to be running around through the world, as your 4 ability is called Temporal Curtain. This creates a wall of energy that grants swiftness to allies who cross it, while crippling foes who touch it. In addition, after casted, if you cast it a second time, your target enemies will be pulled into the Temporal Curtain, and away from wherever they currently are standing. It has a relatively wide area of effect, as you will see in the clip. The second ability on the Mesmer's Focus offhand is known as Phantasmal Warden. This creates a phantasm that attacks your targets and creates a defensive bubble, protecting itself and allies from projectiles. As I said before, the Focus is primarily a utility option. Therefore, when in fights, you can use this to protect yourself from projectiles when casting other abilities from your scepter. However, I do not believe the Focus is one of the better offhands, and I mainly use it for simple utility purposes, such as running around the world. Otherwise, I simply keep it in my inventory to have it there. The second offhand I'm going to be looking at is known as the Pistol. The pistol comes with 2 abilities. Your 4 is known as the Phantasmal Duelist. This creates an illusion that unloads its pistols on your foes. Again, this is an illusion, so therefore it will be an illusion when targeted by enemy players. However, another important fact to note is that when you have your Chaos Field down and switch over to a pistol offhand, you can use your Phantasmal Duelist, and since its pistols count as projectiles, if it shoots into enemies that are inside the Chaos Field created by your staff, it will indeed apply the confusion condition, allowing you to apply multiple stacks relatively quickly, since the Phantasmal Duelist will unload a rapid fire of shots in a relatively short period of time. The second ability on the pistol is known as the Magic Bullet. This 5 ability hits up to 3 foes with a single shot. The first is stunned, the second is dazed, and the third is blinded. It is a relatively large distance between targets. However, it is not ridiculous, whereas you will pull incoming different mobs from other areas, if the time ever comes where you use this in a relatively low population area. However, if used within a large number of players, or enemies in this case for PvE, you will most certainly pull the rest of them. The final offhand I will be analyzing is the Torch. This is primarily a PvP offhand, as it gives you a stealth ability known as the Prestige. This is your 4 ability, and when activated it will disappear you in a cloud of smoke, blinding nearby foes, and reappear 3 seconds later, burning nearby foes. This is primarily used for utility, as for running away from fights that you do not need to be in, or for initiation. Otherwise, I see no purpose. The final ability on the Mesmer Torch is known as Phantasmal Mage. This Phantasm ability on your 5 will create an illusion that confuses foes, and grants retaliation to allies, yet again reinforcing that the Torch is used primarily for PvP and utility. Remember, this is indeed a phantasm, so it will appear as an illusion for enemies. Well, I hope you enjoyed that in-depth weapon skill guide, I guess, for lack of a better term. And yeah, so you're probably wondering where are the healing skills and other slot skills you may or may not have mentioned throughout the video. And that I say, simply put, it would be too long. right now, before I even put in this outro that I'm making right now, the video is already about 15 minutes long. And, adding in a whole nother segment about skills, which I do have it all recorded and whatnot. I realized we'd take about another 15 minutes to make this into a half-an-hour video. Which, if you're just sitting around at home, watching the subscribe box, you're not going to want to watch a half-an-hour video. So anyways, that'll probably be coming out next Friday. I'll just do the skill overview next Friday. With, all the various special skills that make a Mesmer a Mesmer. So yeah, on a parting note, I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like or a comment if you definitely want to see this next Friday. If not, I'll post something else random next Friday. Monday, Wednesday, more tech it coming. And maybe something special in the future. Don't get your hopes up, but I got something special possibly maybe coming. But yeah, so that's all. And oh, big birthday shout out to Mr. Schnaz1001. His birthday today, and giving him a proper shout out. I hope you stayed through the video. It's link to his channel will be in the description. He does a lot of funny stuff, and I've been doing a Minecraft survival series with him and Ropoop. So yeah, well actually I think Ropoop's channel is like constantly linked in the description, anyways. Even when he's not on. Anyways, I'll give it up to that. So enjoy the rest of your evening or day or whatever this is in the future. But I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later. Toodaloo.